For the most part, Sinema and Manchin are just talking about making the bill smaller, not by saying what they want to cut out, really, except for tax increases on the wealthy. And so I want this to be on the substance, and thankfully Bernie Sanders is going to do that. So he is going to take it back to what these numbers actually represent. What is 3.5 trillion? When you cut it to 1.5, what are you losing? Here he is talking about that.
Now, Senator Manchin, as I understand it, talked about today about not wanting to see our country become an entitlement society. Well, I am not exactly sure what he means by that. Does that mean that we end the $300 direct payments for working class parents, which have cut childhood poverty in this country as a result of the American Rescue Plan in half? Is protecting working families and cutting childhood poverty and entitlement? Does Senator Manchin think we should once again have one of the highest levels of childhood poverty of any major country on earth?
Adrian, thoughts?
I think that Bernie just essentially exposed Joe Manchin for what he really is in terms of his little statement. Sure, it sounded good, this thought of we need to take care of people, take care of children. But the reality is that his actions do not align with that. And I think that's so incredibly important because I think, as we've all heard, how individuals treat their most vulnerable as a society speaks volumes about who that society is. And as we've seen time after time in terms of how our nation treats kids, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's calling it out. Manchin does not want to say, no, I literally don't want those things as much as you, or I want less of those things. Maybe I want people to be educated, but we're not gonna pay that much if that's what's required to do, 4 years of public college or whatever. Like, those are actually his positions, to not fund those things. But he doesn't want to come out and say those things. He's not going to come out and say those things. And unfortunately, none of the theoretical mechanisms that would require him to are actually present. Biden's not requiring them to talk about this in any way. They can mostly do it behind closed doors. Sinema is certainly doing that. The media is allowing it, and the voters, not like every day, are allowing it theoretically. If there's a primary challenge, it won't be for years, but these senators clearly feel insulated from popular pressure. They know that these things are popular, and yet they're not supporting them. I can only assume that they don't think it will hurt them amongst the voters. So we have, in theory, this is a democracy. Being against popular things should hurt you in some way, but they are clearly not people who feel that pressure for multiple reasons. And that produces a political system where a couple of people who represent a very tiny percentage of the American population get to determine what any of us get, if anything. And Bernie has some thoughts on that.
My concern with Mr. Manchin is not so much what his views are. I disagree with him. But it is that it is wrong. It is really not playing fair that one or two people think that they should be able to stop what 48 members of the Democratic caucus want, what the American people want, what the President of the United States wants. That would be my position.
Yeah, and look, Adrian, I mean, clearly they can, they have the raw ability to do so. And I guess they think, well, if I have power, I'm gonna use it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that it would be great if they actually use their power and to do what's right in terms of uplifting our nation. But you know what, I think Bernie, he made just the great observation that this is not exactly what it seems to be. All of this is talking points, and they're saying these things, but what are they doing? And so when people think of Manchin, when they think of Sinema, they need to remember that these individuals here, that this is not what they stand for, despite the words coming out of their mouths.
Yeah. Well, that was what Bernie had to say about Manchin. And right before we went live, I saw on Twitter Manchin's response. And so quick recap, Manchin said, hey, we all agree on this stuff, buddy. We gotta do this stuff, but I'm not gonna actually fund it. And Bernie pointed out, here, do you support these things? Elder care, all this stuff, do you actually support it? You call that entitlement, I want those things, people want those things. Manchin said, quote, respectfully, Senator Sanders and I share very different policy and political beliefs. As he and I have discussed, Senator Sanders believes America should be moving towards an entitlement society, while I believe we should have a compassionate and rewarding society. End quote. I've been trying to figure out the pettiest part of that, and I think it's, as he and I have discussed, he believes in moving towards an entitlement society. Yeah, that's what the discussion was. He said that. But after all of what Bernie just said, no, it's Manchin that's compassionate. It is compassionate to block help, to stand between people and healthcare or education, elder care, childcare, so that they can work. All of those things, giving that to them is feeding their laziness and entitlement, barring them from the help that they need, allowing them to someday go to college or own a home or not die needlessly. That is truly compassionate, Adrian.
Yeah, I really do like that, because that was nice and petty, and how he slipped in those few comments to make himself seem like he is the compassionate do-gooder here. It's mesmerizing with his entitlement mentality of thinking that people are taking and taking and taking, when really it's the large companies that are really taking the most from our nation, and the people aren't getting nearly what they should. And that's what Bernie has always stood for. So it's one of those things, seeing Manchin say that. Yeah. Wow.
Well, look, I also want to give some credit to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who had a similar point as Bernie. She tweeted, "The media focus on hazy top line numbers is a gift favoring the tiny number of holdouts. It lets them get away with saying, oh, I want X trillion, not Y, instead of actual positions. Cut child care, or I want to block making prescription drugs affordable. People should know what they want to gut." And so she's been saying that for some time. I don't know what it would take, if anything could make them do that. Again, Sinema isn't worried right now. Like, it's not like she doesn't get how bad the last week or two has looked for her, running away from constituents. Some of the the write-ups that are against her are brutal. The write-ups that are for her are so cringeworthy that I can't imagine a real voter buys them. But that only matters if, in theory, it hurts her in an election, a primary or a general election. And see, she's acting like a person that isn't afraid. And Bernie actually had some thoughts about Senator Sinema as well. So let's go to that.
Senator Sinema's position has been that she doesn't, quote unquote, negotiate publicly. And I don't know what that means. We don't know where she's coming from. What I have heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, this is a problem. I have heard that she is opposed to having Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry and lowering prescription drug prices. I have heard that she is opposed to asking the wealthy and large corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. That is what I have heard. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think, to answer your question, yeah, I would love to see her. In the same sense as Senator Manchin, tell us what you want and don't want. Thanks very much.
I would have loved to have gotten some more from him on that, but unfortunately that was all he had to say about Sinema there, Adrian.
Yeah, I love it, because he's indicating the truth. The fact that she's hiding the ball, saying, oh, I don't negotiate in public, all these things. It tells you she probably either doesn't know what she's talking about, is completely unprepared, or is unwilling to step up and essentially put her back into it in terms of standing up for what she believes in. It's just Sinema seems to bring a whole different level of chaos to Congress that we don't need right now. And then seeing her essentially stand in the way, it's not a good look through and through. And I really hope her constituents see that.
Yeah, and look, it seems like maybe they do. I mean, her approval rating in Arizona has gone down. The Arizona Democratic Party is doing their, or threatening to do their, vote of no confidence and all that. So all of that exists, but I don't know, it's a couple of years until any primary would actually happen. I mean, a contender wouldn't necessarily even show their face for a year and a half, or be considered a serious contender until that point. And let's say a year and a half goes by and someone, I don't know, people talk about I think Representative Gallego possibly, I think it is, running against her. What's the Democratic Party gonna do? They're gonna remember that she doesn't stand with them and that she was really frustrating. So you know what? We're gonna support a primary against a sitting senator. Are they actually gonna do that? Is Feinstein gonna fundraise against her? If she successfully tanks the bill and effectively neuters Biden's first term, we got the COVID bill, and I think there was a hate crime thing, and then that was it. In no small part because of her. Is he gonna help recruit a primary challenger? Or are they gonna line up and say, hey, at least she's a Democrat, I guess. We don't wanna take the risk of Meghan McCain running or something. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think we kind of know the answer to that. Unfortunately, those Democrats are not the most robust when it comes to standing up and having a spine. So I do think it will be a shoulder shrugs. At least there's a D next to her name, as opposed to let's the substantive look at what she's done. Do you actually think it's that they would stand up and go against her?
I don't know, man. We'll see. Like, I think if you have like a solid year of it looking like she would lose a general election if she were the candidate, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe then, but I don't know. Look at some of the people they support in open contests. They support moderate Democrats that have no chance of winning. So, honestly, God only knows. We'll have to see as we go. I do want to mention one other thing, though, especially because of the context of what's been going on in places like Texas. One of the things that apparently is a sticking point for Joe Manchin when it comes to the infrastructure bill is whether the Hyde Amendment will be included or not. President Biden was asked about that.
Progressives want it in there, but Joe Manchin has said he does not want it in there.
I want to get the bill passed.
So how would you sign it if the Hyde Amendment is included?
I'd sign it either way, because the Hyde Amendment is, anyway.
I don't know what that last word was. I don't know, man. I'm tired as hell. It's late. Look how dark it is. I should have been asleep 2 hours ago. Anyway, look, Biden for a long time supported the Hyde Amendment, which bars federal funds going towards abortions. He has recently, due to progressive pressure, gone against that position. And you can tell he's had a real change of heart when he doesn't care whether it's in there or not. But Manchin is insisting that it be in the reconciliation bill. I think this is particularly important, Adrian, in light of what recently happened in Texas and other states, other Republican states moving in the same direction, effectively getting rid of women's reproductive rights. What do you think about this debate happening in the Democratic Party right now, considering the context?
I couldn't agree with you more. The fact is that we have right now going on in the backdrop is we have Texas essentially attacking abortion rights and undermining Roe v. Wade. And it's sitting before SCOTUS now with these cases coming up for the fact that, what the federal government does to show its support for abortion rights is so incredibly imperative right now. And to have Biden say, we'll see, it's good, I can do with or without. It really doesn't signal that much, trust in what is going on here because we really want support. Are you kidding?
Yeah. It's Joe Manchin. Like the party only gets to be as good as its worst member. That's fun.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.